You're strapped into a 750 horsepower stock car doing 190 miles an hour, and the mirrors show nothing but empty track behind you. No one is close. No one can get close. In the stands, tens of thousands of people are asking the same question at the exact same time: how is this even legal? This happened at Michigan International Speedway on June 7, 2026, and by the time the sun set on that track, one driver's name would be attached to a controversy that followed him for weeks afterward. Nothing about that Sunday hinted at what was coming. 36 cars lined up for a normal Cup Series race, the kind of race weekend that comes and goes without much national attention. One driver, a Saturday pole winner, had already been forced to start from the back after an unapproved adjustment was found on his car during pre-race inspection. By the standards of a normal Sunday, that penalty alone should have made his day difficult before it even began. Then came a lap 83 incident, minor contact with another car that should have compromised his chances entirely. It didn't. By the end of the day, one number would be bigger than anything NASCAR had seen in the next-gen era: 11.110. That number belonged to Denny Hamlin, 45 years old, driver of the number 11 Toyota. If you're new here, subscribe and hit like. This channel, NASCAR Racing World, is closing in on 500 subscribers, and every person who joins helps us keep bringing breakdowns like this one to more fans of the sport. Your support genuinely shapes what we can cover next, so if this story pulls you in, stick around for the rest of it. Hamlin retook the lead with 38 laps to go, and from that point on, the outcome of the race was effectively decided. He pulled away from the field and never looked back for the remainder of the event. At the checkered flag, the gap between him and the second-place car was 11.11 seconds, the largest margin of victory recorded on an oval track since the introduction of the next-gen car to the Cup Series. The numbers stacked up quickly after the race ended. It marked his 63rd career Cup win, tying him with Kyle Busch for 9th on the all-time wins list in NASCAR history. It was his second consecutive win following an earlier victory at Nashville, and his third win of the 2026 season overall, following his win at Vegas earlier in the year. That stretch of results pushed him up to third place in the season points standings, positioned behind points leader Tyler Reddick, whose own 5-win start to the 2026 season had briefly made him the central storyline of the year, until the events at Michigan flipped that narrative overnight, according to Heavy Sports' recap of the points swing that followed that race weekend. Hamlin didn't say a word publicly about what he'd just accomplished in the immediate aftermath. He didn't have to. The internet said it for him almost instantly. Within hours of the checkered flag, cheater chatter had taken over large sections of NASCAR's social media spaces, spreading at a pace and volume that outpaced nearly every other storyline from that race weekend combined. This wasn't the first time this exact type of accusation had followed Hamlin during the 2026 season either. Earlier that year, during the All-Star race, an AI-generated post had falsely claimed a specific device was installed on his car to give it an unfair advantage, a claim that spread widely enough across social platforms that Hamlin was forced to respond to it publicly at the time, according to Essential Sports reporting on the incident. Now, months later, at Michigan, a similar wave of suspicion resurfaced around him, and fans began openly demanding that NASCAR tear the car down for a full inspection before confirming the result. Hamlin went quiet for days following the race. He let the speculation sit without any public response. He let the theory grow on its own, gaining traction across forums and social media without a single word from him addressing it directly. Then, several days later, he finally broke that silence, not through a statement or a social media post, but during an appearance on his own podcast, Actions Detrimental. And when he finally addressed the accusations directly, he didn't defend himself in the traditional sense. Instead, he goaded his critics further. He mocked the people criticizing his car's performance, pointing out that many of them had, in his words, never worked on a car a day in their lives, despite confidently claiming the car was illegally modified. He then pivoted to a historical comparison, pointing out that Jimmy Johnson had won 83 races across the course of his career without ever facing this same level of public scrutiny or suspicion. He also noted that there are 8 drivers positioned ahead of him on the all-time wins list who were never accused of cheating in the same way he now found himself being accused. He reframed the entire wave of outrage as a form of fatigue, arguing that fans weren't reacting to any genuine suspicion of wrongdoing, but were instead simply exhausted from watching him continue to win race after race. Then came the specific line that turned the entire podcast episode into a nationwide headline within the NASCAR community. Hamlin said, directly and without hesitation, "It ain't as easy as it looks, people, but when you have a car as illegal and cheated up as mine, it's so easy." That sentence didn't resolve anything about the ongoing controversy. It could be read one way as him trolling his critics, deliberately turning their own accusation into a joke made at their expense. It could also be read a completely different way, as something closer to an actual confession dressed up as sarcasm to protect himself from direct consequences. Both interpretations were left sitting side by side across NASCAR media coverage in the days that followed, and neither interpretation was ever confirmed or denied directly by Hamlin himself afterward. He didn't stop at that single line either. In that same podcast appearance, Hamlin brought up the 2018 season specifically, the one winless season of his entire career, a season that reportedly cost his crew chief his job at the time due to the lack of results. He pointed out, somewhat pointedly, that many of the same fans now calling him a cheater in 2026 were the exact same fans calling for him to be fired back in 2018 when his team wasn't winning at all, according to coverage of that same podcast episode from both Yahoo Sports and Essential Sports. NASCAR's official post-race inspection process at Michigan ultimately cleared Hamlin's car of any wrongdoing. No issues were found with the vehicle during that inspection. Meanwhile, for other cars from that same race, those belonging to Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, and Bubba Wallace, were sent back for additional engine testing following the same event. Hamlin's car was notably not one of them. The one car that fans across social media wanted torn apart the most turned out to be the one car that NASCAR officials didn't touch further after the initial inspection. In the weeks that followed the Michigan race, chatter surrounding the broader theory didn't fully disappear either. Some of it tied back to Toyota's dominant win rate across the manufacturer's standings during the 2026 season as a whole. Some of it involved alleged remarks attributed to rival drivers that circulated online without clear sourcing. None of this later material carried the same level of confirmation as either the original podcast quote or the official inspection result from race day. It remains unverified, fan-driven and rumor mill material rather than confirmed reporting, and it should continue to be treated that way going forward. Hamlin has already publicly confirmed that he plans to retire from full-time competition after the conclusion of the 2027 season. That confirmed timeline adds additional weight to everything currently unfolding around him. Is this simply a veteran driver closing out the final stretch of his career on a historic and dominant tear, riding a level of performance rarely seen this late into a Cup Series career? Or is this a driver who has learned exactly how to weaponize ambiguity against the very people criticizing him, handing them a single line they can interpret however they choose while never actually confirming or denying anything about his car himself? Nothing about his podcast appearance answered that underlying question directly. Nothing about the official inspection result answered it either. He said it himself, in his own words, on his own podcast. He phrased it in a way that let every single listener hear exactly what they personally wanted to hear from him. Days after the podcast episode aired, he still hadn't walked the comment back, clarified it further, or addressed it again in any other public setting. NASCAR never officially said he did anything wrong. Hamlin himself never said he did either. If you found this breakdown useful, drop a comment below sharing your own read on that specific line, whether you see it as trolling or as something closer to a confession, and let us know if you personally think NASCAR should have pulled that car apart further regardless of what the official inspection ultimately showed. Share this video with another NASCAR fan who has been following the Hamlin storyline closely this season. And if you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this one, you'll like what's coming next on this channel, so make sure you're subscribed to NASCAR Racing World before that next video drops.